Yeah, a couple of things you mentioned there, just to highlight, maybe develop a bit. One of the things that we often say in our seminars at Reachout Trust is that Freemason isn't necessarily any more of a sinner than anyone else. There are some, and we've had an email in which deals with some of the more wider sides of Freemason, which I want to come to at the end, so I'm not going to deal with that just at the moment, Chris, but we will get to it. Another interesting one here, though, it says from Paul, and it says, Michael mentioned that prayers were directed to the bearer of light. I'm sure you know that Latin, the language of the ritual, because this title is Lucifer, which of course is very interesting. There's a whole area of bearer of that. And of course we're still told today that Satan comes as an angel of light. Yeah. And so you can feel that you're doing good. You can feel that it's positive and with it, and yet you could be deceived in that.
You can almost feel this humanistic holiness, if you like. You know, that because you're putting money into the charity box every week, and because you're doing this, the ceremonies are very much based around it's loosely based around what's in the Bible. Yes. And so therefore you almost feel biblically holy, if you like, when you're doing these ceremonies, even though it's quite far from the truth. Yes. But, we'll go there later with that.
One of the things, again, in laying this foundation of the problems is to me this whole area of secrecy, and you've mentioned it.
It's not a secret society; it's a society of secrets.
They make a distinction between the secrecy that we're not a secretive society, but we are a society that has secrets. Now, but the problem with that is the one which you've homed in on, which is often, and I've often talked to mates about this, you can't talk about what goes on in your lodge back at home. Now, you go, my wife always have a go because I don't always tell her exactly what's going on, but I go to a meeting and get blessed. She comes home and says, how's the meeting? I say, all right, dear. But it's not it's not because there is secrecy. I mean, she drags it out of me and we start talking about how great it was. Yeah, it's a man thing. Yeah, how great it is, what's been going on. But you couldn't do that. No. Therefore, the puts the doubts in. It puts this brick wall starting to be built up between you and your family simply because there are secrets that you cannot share.
I suppose many Masonic children will say to their mum, so where's Daddy going to tonight? Well, he's going to his Masonic meeting. And, well, what happens there, Mum? Well, I can't tell you because your dad will not tell me. Right. Well, why has my dad got secrets from my mum? That's surely wrong. Yeah. And yes, I mean, there's many of the oaths in Masonry, which tell you if you give any of these secrets away, you're a willfully perjured individual, and all of the horrible, nasty things that you pronounce over yourself that come with that. All of these things you're not supposed to share. Now, I mean, most Masons who are climbing the ladder will have the little black book where they're rehearsing the ceremony from, and they will be allowed to pass that over to their wives to see that they've got the ceremony in the right order, but there's loads of blanks missing, the words missing, so obviously you can't tell them those secret words. And those words generally tend to be things like, the passwords, the grips and tokens that they use to identify each other as Masons. But again, once you're taking secrets, once you're keeping secrets from your wife, you're on a slippery road with your marriage. Yes. Because your wives, your partners, whatever, could start and think all manner of things is he really going to the lodge? If he's holding this many secrets, is he really going there? I'm uncomfortable. That's another reason why I was uncomfortable. The fact that you can't really tell anybody what's happening in there. You could kind of give them an overall picture that there is a ceremony, and then there is a festive board afterwards, which is where you eat and be merry. But that's about it, really. And then once a year, when the master of the lodge has a ladies' night, all of the ladies get invited once a year, and everybody dresses up, and it's a grand evening. And,
but you don't go through the secret ceremonies, do you? At that time, it's a very open thing.
They can have a look in the lodge building itself upstairs in the temple, and they'll be guided around. But all of the working tools of all of those different degrees are put away, locked away in cabinets. So they'll see. It's a bit like, I suppose it's a bit like going to a church building where there's just the pews in. you know, and nothing else. They took the cross on down or whatever. They took the altar away and things like that. It's a bit like that. And the questions, you know, that some people will ask when they go there probably don't get, you know, the right answers that they're wanting to hear. And most people come away from it thinking it's just a bit like a cold church. That's what most women that I've invited into the place.
Can I come back to these oaths? I mean, you already mentioned one ceremony which where you and everybody, I think it was the sketch, wasn't it, with Monty Python with the trouser leg rolled up, and that's always the standard joke. But then also, I think the third degree, you're actually figuratively hit over the head. You're put into a coffin-like structure, and you rise again, don't you? So these have very real connotations, and at the same time, you take these oaths. Now, I don't know, I think things have changed, haven't they? At one point, the person actually took the oaths and said, if I reveal any of this, my throat's cut, you know, and all sorts of horrible things in the sand at high tide, and we won't go into those just at the moment. Is it true that they don't actually take those oaths anymore, but they're still spoken over them by the master of the lodge these days?
They're still spoken over them, and they're repeated as well, because as the master speaks, you have to repeat the lines that the master is speaking, so you're still taking those oaths. It's just, they're not put in the same position as they used to be within the ceremony. So yes, it's after kind of the main part of the ceremony, if you like. But the third degree that you mentioned there, it's done in complete darkness with only one small light on. The whole problem with that I had is that it mentions that the Masonic central character is a fellow called Hiram Abiff, who's very much a very minor character in the Bible. You know, and they deny Jesus, who is obviously the main character in the Bible, but yet this Hiram Abiff is almost lionized as a god. You know, as the greatest person who's ever lived. Now, even that is a lie. That you know, what they're talking about in there, because Hiram Abiff apparently was running away from some ruffians before the construction of the temple was completed, and these ruffians want to get the secrets from him to become Master Masons. They want the secrets of the Master Masons, and so one hits him on this temple, one hits him on that temple, the other one hits him on the head with a mail, and down he goes. You're lowered into a figurative grave. In most lodges, that's a white sheet on the floor with a black coffin painted with skull and crossbones, and then there's a handkerchief put over your face. And then you're figuratively raised from the dead, which is the problem that, you know, I had. Most Christian Masons should have if they're in Freemasonry, because obviously, you know, that's equating yourself to being like Jesus.
Death, burial, and resurrection.
And really, you know, this I think it's Kings 7, chapter 40.
1 Kings or 2 Kings?
1 Kings 7:40.
1 Kings 7:40.
Just to prove the point about Hiram Abiff. And where is it? Hiram made the lavers and the bowls. So Hiram finished doing all of the work that he was to do for King Solomon for the house of the Lord. So he actually had finished the work. Yet in that ceremony, they're saying that the work of the temple was not yet completed.
And he was running away from those that were trying to stop him from completing the work of the temple.
And so therefore, you know, the Masons say that everything's biblically based, but that's actually a lie, because Hiram finished the work. And it says it there in the Word of God, and the Word of the God is truth. And so that again is a problem that you have. That whole ceremony is founded around that this king, this Hiram Abiff, sorry, not King Hiram. Hiram Abiff is their central character. He's the greatest person ever lived, and yet it's a lie. And you know, again, if they're raising up a character such as he, but denying Christ, then that's not the kind of religion that I want to be in.